Mark, have you ever been in the middle of an English conversation and suddenly blank? Like you know the word in your native language, but the English version just vanishes from your brain.
Oh, absolutely. And here's what's interesting. Last week, I was talking with a student and she said, Eva, I know all these words when I study, but when I actually speak, my brain feels foggy. And I thought, that's the perfect description. Brain fog.
Exactly. And today, we're going to do something a bit different. We're not just talking about English learning techniques. We're going to explore something that affects your ability to learn English and, honestly, everything else in a huge way. We're talking about mental clarity.
Because here's the thing. You can have all the vocabulary lists in the world, but if your brain isn't functioning well, if you're experiencing that fog, that exhaustion, that inability to focus, none of it matters.
Right. So today's episode is called Brain Fog to Brilliant. Master English while boosting your mental clarity. And we're going to explore the surprising connection between what you eat, how you feel, and how well you can actually learn and use English.
Welcome, everyone, to Daily English Learning. I'm Mark.
And I'm Eva. And if you're new here, welcome. We teach English through real conversations, practical examples, and today, a topic that might surprise you, but could genuinely transform your learning experience.
So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's dive into why your brain might be working against you and what you can do about it.
All right, Mark, let's start with a question for our listeners. Have you ever sat down to study English? Maybe you've got your textbook open, you're watching a video, or you're trying to practice speaking, and within 10 minutes, your mind just drifts.
Oh, that's so common, and people usually blame themselves. They think, I'm just not disciplined enough, or I don't have the focus gene, or whatever.
Right, but what if I told you that your inability to focus might have nothing to do with discipline and everything to do with what you ate for breakfast?
Okay, that sounds dramatic, but it's actually backed by science. Let me give you an example from my own life. I used to start my day with orange juice and toast with jam. Sweet, simple, quick.
Sounds perfectly normal.
Exactly. But here's what would happen. I'd feel great for about an hour, energized, focused, and then around 10 a.m., I'd crash. Suddenly, I couldn't concentrate on anything. Reading felt impossible. If I tried to have a conversation in my second language, Spanish, I'd forget basic words I'd known for years.
And you thought you just needed more coffee, right?
Exactly. But the real problem was something called a glucose spike. Now don't worry, we're going to explain this in simple English, and we're going to explain why it matters for your English learning.
So, glucose is just another word for blood sugar. It's the fuel your brain uses to function. When you eat something sweet or processed like pastries, sugary cereal, white bread, juice, your blood sugar rises really quickly.
We call this a spike, a sudden sharp increase. And here's the key expression. What goes up must come down.
Ooh, I like that. So, if your blood sugar spikes really high, really fast,
It's going to crash really low really fast. And that crash, that's when you get brain fog. That's when you can't remember vocabulary. That's when English feels 10 times harder than it should.
and this is where we get to a great English expression, mental clarity. Clarity means clearness, the ability to see or think clearly. So mental clarity means your mind feels sharp, focused, and clear, not foggy or confused.
Right, and the opposite would be brain fog or mental fog, that cloudy, sluggish feeling where everything requires extra effort.
Now, there's a technical term here that's worth knowing, especially if you read health articles in English: nerve conduction velocity.
Okay, let's break that down. Nerve refers to the cells in your brain and body that send signals. Conduction means the transmission or movement of something. Velocity means speed.
So, nerve conduction velocity is literally the speed at which your brain cells communicate with each other. Think of it like internet speed for your brain.
Exactly. And studies show that when you have repeated glucose spikes, this speed slows down. It's like going from high-speed internet to dial-up.
Oh, that's a great comparison. And for our younger listeners who don't know what dial-up is,
It's basically prehistoric internet that took forever to load anything.
perfect. So when your brain is running on dial-up, trying to speak English, trying to access vocabulary, form sentences, understand what someone's saying, it all becomes significantly harder.
And here's what I want our listeners to understand. This isn't a character flaw. It's not laziness. It's biochemistry. Your brain literally cannot function at its best when you're on this blood sugar roller coaster.
So let's talk solutions. Mark, what did you change?
I switched to what we call a savory breakfast instead of sweet one. Savory means not sweet. Think eggs, vegetables, cheese, avocado, things like that.
And notice the pronunciation there. Savory. 3 syllables, stress on the first.
Good catch. So instead of toast and jam, I started having scrambled eggs with spinach and tomatoes, and the difference was immediate. My energy stayed steady all morning. My focus was sharp, and honestly, my Spanish, and my English for that matter, felt easier.
This is such a practical example of something we always say on this podcast. Learning English isn't just about study techniques. It's about creating the conditions for your brain to actually work well. All right, Mark, we've talked about focus and mental clarity, but there's another piece to this puzzle that I think a lot of English learners don't realize, the emotional component.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where we get to talk about a really useful English word, hangry.
I love this word. Okay, so hangry is a combination of hungry and angry. It's when you get irritable or upset because you haven't eaten or because your blood sugar is low.
Right, and we can use it like this. I'm sorry I snapped at you. I was just really hangry. Or don't make any important decisions when you're hangry.
And here's why this matters for English learners. Think about a time when you tried to practice speaking English or took an online lesson or watched a video and you were tired, hungry, or stressed.
Yeah, it probably didn't go well.
Exactly, because when your blood sugar is unstable, your brain struggles to regulate emotions. You become more easily frustrated. Mistakes feel bigger than they are. You might even want to give up entirely.
And then you think, I'm just bad at English, when really your brain just didn't have the fuel it needed to handle a challenging task.
Right, so here's a really useful phrase, emotional regulation. This means your ability to manage and respond to your emotions in a healthy way.
And notice the pronunciation, emotional regulation. Let's say it together, emotional regulation.
Good. Now, studies have shown that stable blood sugar levels improve emotional regulation. That means you're less likely to feel overwhelmed, frustrated, or anxious.
Which for English learners is huge because, let's be honest, learning a language is already emotionally challenging. You're making mistakes constantly. You're outside your comfort zone. You're dealing with frustration and self-doubt.
Absolutely. So why make it harder by depriving your brain of stable energy?
Exactly. And here's another expression worth knowing, a ripple effect. When you throw a stone into water, it creates ripples that spread outward, right?
Right. So a ripple effect means when one action causes multiple consequences that spread beyond the initial action.
So when you stabilize your blood sugar, you don't just improve focus, you also improve your mood, which improves your relationships, which improves your overall well-being. It's a ripple effect.
I love that. And we can use it like this. Eating a healthy breakfast had a ripple effect on my entire day.
Or learning English had a ripple effect. I became more confident in other areas of my life too.
Perfect. Now, there's one more emotional aspect I want to talk about, and that's anxiety.
Oh yes, this is big.
So, repeated glucose spikes can actually contribute to anxiety and depression. And here's a technical term you might see in health articles, insulin resistance.
Let's break that down. Insulin is a hormone that helps your body process sugar. Resistance means your body stops responding to it effectively.
So, when you have insulin resistance, your body struggles to manage blood sugar, which creates inflammation, another useful word. Inflammation means swelling or irritation in the body, and it can affect your brain.
And studies have linked insulin resistance to an 89% increased risk of depression. That's not a small number.
Not at all. But here's the hopeful part, and this is where we get to use a great phrase, a powerful first step.
Right. Stabilizing your glucose levels is a powerful first step toward improving mental health. It doesn't solve everything, but it creates a foundation.
Exactly. And we can use this phrase in lots of contexts. Joining this podcast is a powerful first step toward fluency, or admitting you need help is a powerful first step toward recovery.
Love it. So to summarize this section, when your blood sugar is stable, you're not just thinking more clearly, you're feeling more emotionally balanced, less anxious, and more capable of handling challenges.
Which means you're in a much better state to learn English.
All right, Eva, I think it's time we take a step back and really dig into some of the key vocabulary we've been using, because this episode isn't just about health, it's about learning English, and we've introduced some really useful words and expressions.
Absolutely. So let's do a quick vocabulary review. But we'll go deeper than just definitions. We'll look at usage, collocations, and how these words show up in everyday English.
Perfect. Let's start with spike. We've been talking about glucose spikes, but spike is a super versatile word.
Right. So the basic meaning of spike is a sharp increase, something that goes up suddenly and dramatically. We can say, there was a spike in COVID cases, or we saw a spike in traffic after the concert.
And it's also a verb. Prices spiked last month. His heart rate spiked when he saw the bear.
Great examples. Now, the opposite of a spike would be a drop or a crash. After the spike, sales crashed.
Exactly. Next word, fog, or brain fog. Now, literally, fog is that thick mist that makes it hard to see, but when we talk about brain fog, we're using it metaphorically.
Right, and this is a really common pattern in English, using weather or nature words to describe mental or emotional states. We say things like, I'm feeling under the weather, meaning I'm sick, or she's a ray of sunshine, meaning she's cheerful.
Exactly. So brain fog means mental confusion, lack of clarity, difficulty focusing. And we can say, I've been experiencing brain fog lately, or coffee helps clear my brain fog.
Good. Now, here's a phrase we used earlier, proactive. This is a word English learners should definitely know.
Right. Proactive means taking action before a problem happens rather than reacting after it happens. The opposite is reactive.
So, a proactive person might say, I'm going to start exercising now to prevent health problems later. A reactive person waits until they're already sick and then says, I guess I should exercise.
Perfect distinction. And we often use it with being or getting. You need to be more proactive about your health. She's very proactive when it comes to her career.
Great. Now let's talk about thrive. This is such a positive, energizing word.
It is. To thrive means to grow, develop, and succeed. Not just survive, but really flourish. Think of a plant in perfect conditions. It doesn't just stay alive, it thrives.
Exactly. And we can use it like this. She's thriving in her new job. These plants thrive in sunny conditions. After moving to a smaller city, he really thrived.
Beautiful. And notice, it's often followed by in when we're talking about environments or conditions.
Good point. All right, next, culprit. We used this when we said glucose spikes are one of the biggest culprits behind poor brain performance.
Right. A culprit is literally a person responsible for a crime, but we use it more broadly to mean the cause of a problem.
So we might say stress is the main culprit behind my headaches, or lack of sleep is the culprit behind my bad mood.
Exactly. It's a great word for identifying causes. Now here's one that trips up a lot of learners: processed.
Oh, yes. So, processed foods are foods that have been altered from their natural state, usually with added sugars, preservatives, or artificial ingredients.
Right. So fresh vegetables are unprocessed, but potato chips are highly processed. White bread is processed, but whole grain bread with minimal ingredients is less processed.
And we often see this in health contexts. Try to avoid processed foods. The more processed a food is, the less nutritious it tends to be.
Perfect. Now let's talk about sluggish. This is a great descriptive word.
I love this word. Sluggish means slow moving, lacking energy, not functioning well. It comes from slug, which is that slow, slimy creature.
Right. So we can say, I feel sluggish after eating a big meal. The economy has been sluggish this quarter. My computer's running sluggish. I need to restart it.
And notice how versatile it is. It can describe people, things, systems, anything that's moving or functioning slowly.
Absolutely. All right, last one for this section, consistency.
This is such an important word for English learners because it's key to success.
Right. Consistency means doing something regularly, reliably, over time, not sporadically or occasionally.
So we might say, the key to learning English is consistency. She goes to the gym with remarkable consistency. Consistency is more important than intensity.
And the adjective form is consistent. You need to be consistent with your practice.
Perfect. Okay, so we've covered spike, brain fog, proactive, thrive, culprit, processed, sluggish, and consistency. All incredibly useful words beyond just today's topic.
All right, Eva, we've talked about the problems, glucose spikes, brain fog, emotional ups and downs. Now let's get practical. What can our listeners actually do about this?
Yes, and I want to emphasize something important here. We're not doctors. We're English teachers sharing information that's helped us and that's backed by research. But everyone's different, so use your judgment.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about what we call hacks. Now, hack is a really trendy word in English right now.
It is. Originally, a hack was cutting something with rough strokes or a clever solution in computer programming. But now we use it to mean any simple trick or shortcut that makes life easier.
Right, so we say things like, here's a travel hack, or this productivity hack changed my life, or what's your favorite life hack?
Exactly. So today, we're sharing brain health hacks, simple tricks to keep your mind sharp and your English learning effective.
Hack number 1. Start your day with a savory breakfast. We've talked about this already, but let's be specific. What does this actually look like?
Great question. So instead of cereal, pastries, toast with jam, or fruit juice, think about eggs, vegetables, cheese, nuts, avocado, yogurt with no added sugar.
Right, and here's a useful phrase, protein-rich. Protein is essential for keeping blood sugar stable, so a protein-rich breakfast is ideal.
We can say, I always eat a protein-rich breakfast to stay energized, or adding protein to your meals helps you feel fuller longer.
Exactly. Now, hack number 2, start your meals with vegetables.
This one's so simple but so effective. Before you eat your main course, have a small salad or some steamed vegetables.
And here's why it works. The fiber in vegetables slows down how quickly your body absorbs sugar, so even if you eat something sweet later, the impact is much gentler.
Right, and we can use the phrase slows down absorption. Fiber slows down the absorption of sugar into your bloodstream.
Perfect. And this is where we get to introduce another useful word, buffer. A buffer is something that protects or cushions against impact.
So vegetables act as a buffer against glucose spikes. They create a protective layer that makes the impact less severe.
I love that. Hack number 3, move after meals. This doesn't mean running a marathon, just a simple 10-minute walk.
Right, and here's the phrase we use, post-meal walk. Post means after, so a post-meal walk is a walk after eating.
And studies show that even light movement helps your body process food more efficiently, preventing those big spikes and crashes.
Exactly. We can say, I always take a short post-meal walk, or a post-meal walk improves digestion and energy levels.
Great. Now, hack number 4, and this one might surprise people. If you're going to eat something sweet, do it right after a meal, not on an empty stomach.
Right, because when you eat sugar alone, it hits your bloodstream really fast. But after a meal, the other food slows it down.
So we can use the phrase on an empty stomach versus after a meal. Never drink coffee on an empty stomach. It's better to eat dessert after a meal than as a snack.
Perfect. And this brings us to a really important concept, delayed gratification.
Ooh, great phrase. Let's break it down. Gratification means satisfaction or pleasure. Delayed means postponed or put off until later.
So delayed gratification means resisting the urge for immediate pleasure in favor of a better long-term outcome.
Right. So instead of eating dessert whenever you crave it, you delay that gratification until after a proper meal, which is better for your health.
And we can use this phrase broadly. Success requires delayed gratification. He struggled with delayed gratification. He always wanted results immediately.
Exactly. Now, Eva, let's connect this back to English learning. How do all these hacks actually help someone learning English?
Great question. So imagine this scenario. You wake up, have a sugary breakfast, and at 10 a.m. you sit down to study English. But your blood sugar has crashed, your brain is foggy, and you can't concentrate.
Right. You're trying to memorize vocabulary, but nothing's sticking. You're trying to understand a podcast, but you keep zoning out.
Exactly. You might spend an hour studying, but retained almost nothing. Then you think, I'm just not good at this.
But it's not your ability, it's your brain state. Now imagine the same scenario, but you had a protein-rich, savory breakfast.
Right. Your energy is stable, your mind is clear. You sit down at 10 a.m. and suddenly, vocabulary feels easier to remember. That podcast makes sense. You're engaged and focused.
And that's the same hour of study time, but the results are completely different.
Exactly. So these hacks aren't just about general health. They're directly impacting your ability to learn effectively.
And here's a phrase we should introduce: optimizing your environment. This means creating the best possible conditions for success.
Right. You can't control everything, but you can optimize what you can control, like your food, your sleep, your study environment.
Exactly. And for English learners, optimizing your brain health is optimizing your learning environment.
All right, Mark, we're coming up on the end of today's episode, but I want to talk about one more thing, the long-term perspective.
Absolutely, because everything we've talked about today isn't just about feeling better right now. It's about protecting your brain for the future.
Right, and here's where we get to a really important phrase, cognitive decline. Cognitive refers to mental processes, thinking, memory, learning. Decline means gradual decrease or deterioration.
So, cognitive decline means the gradual loss of mental abilities as you age. Memory problems, difficulty focusing, slower thinking.
And while some decline is natural, research shows that lifestyle choices, especially around diet, can significantly slow or even prevent it.
Right, and there's even evidence that certain dietary changes can reverse early signs of cognitive decline.
Which brings us to a hopeful phrase, it's never too late. We can say, it's never too late to start taking care of your brain, or it's never too late to learn English.
Exactly, and I want our listeners to really hear this. Whether you're 25 or 65, the choices you make today matter. Starting a savory breakfast tomorrow might seem like a small thing, but over years, it compounds.
Right, and that's a great word, compound. To compound means to increase or accumulate over time. Small actions compound into big results.
We can say daily practice compounds into fluency. Small health improvements compound into major benefits.
Perfect. So let's recap what we've covered today. We talked about glucose spikes and brain fog, how blood sugar crashes make it harder to focus and learn.
We discussed the emotional connection, how unstable blood sugar affects mood, anxiety, and emotional regulation.
We explored practical hacks, savory breakfasts, starting meals with vegetables, moving after eating, and timing your treats strategically.
And we connected all of this to English learning because your brain health directly impacts your ability to study, retain information, and actually use the language.
Right, and we also learned tons of useful English vocabulary and expressions along the way.
Exactly. So here's our challenge for you. Tomorrow morning, try a savory breakfast. Notice how you feel an hour later, 2 hours later. See if your focus is sharper when you sit down to study English.
And if you want to dive deeper into this topic, we'll put some resources in the description. But remember, we're English teachers, not health professionals, so do your own research and consult experts.
Absolutely. And as always, we'd love to hear from you. What did you think of today's episode? Have you experienced brain fog while learning English? Let us know in the comments.
Thanks so much for joining us on Daily English Learning. Remember, learning English isn't just about techniques and study methods. It's about creating the conditions for your brain to thrive.
Take care of your brain, and it will take care of your English learning.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.